Oh, we're live. Hey, how you doing, everybody? This is your Sensei Al Bob, and I found a place to go online, and it's almost the end of May. Oh, there's AI. Hey, buddy. And so I've really been out of communications out there in the deep green, and I kind of feel like a mushroom. It's rained and rained and rained for the last 2 weeks. Hey, so I just stayed put under a tarp. And today, this morning, it was sunny, so I went out and did a whole bunch of errands, bought some food. It was getting a little low. I was looking for, you know, the day we're supposed to honor our fallen heroes. You know, what do we get for that? But sales, car sales. You know, Memorial Day sale. But I went around and usually at Lowe's and the other big box stores, they got pretty good buys for Memorial Day. They all said, "Oh no, because of the coronavirus, we're not doing any sales." You'd think that's when you'd want to have some sales, but don't believe a word I say. You know. And good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. This is your Sensei Al Bob, and I hope you're all well. Um, And it's interesting because I've been out in the woods and I don't see anybody, and it's I feel like I'm in on the stage set of West Side Story, you know. And what's interesting about that movie is that half the movie was done on a sound stage. Jessica, how you doing, buddy? And welcome to the show. Where are you at, Jessica? What neck of the woods? And how long you been watching the show? And what do you think of this pandemic? Indiana. Indiana wants me. Can't go back there. What's going on in Indiana? Are you in a big city or are you out there in the country? I'm out in the middle of a rainforest. Um, I've started gardening. I've been doing more physical work than I have in a long time. And I thought I was dying, but no, I was just using muscles I hadn't used in a long time. And I built a raised bed and I did it out in the middle of the forest. And there was this beautiful open area that sun came shining through. Notice but the cities, nothing's closed. Yeah, park's closed. Yeah, I mean, what's the deal with the park's closed? I think it's just the state's not wanting to spend money. Yep. And yesterday my plot, my raised bed, I got 2x16s, 20 foot long. I found them in the woods. I dragged them out to the side, nailed them together. And this spot where my garden is, it's flat, but in the forest, I live in what are known as sawtooth mountains. So they go up and down and up and down and up and down. And so I kind of made a path from where my little campsite is up to where this flat openness was. And then I made some more steps going up. And as I did, and it's 40 degrees about. So I had to cut away the forest bed. And as I did the first few steps, man, the dirt was so black and earthworms everywhere. So I, found this other really nice flat spot where I'm going to make a little campsite for visitors and put my hammock up there. And I started cutting it away and making a 11 by 7 foot square. so you could put some chairs up. And as so, I had to cut down about a foot to take it 7 feet. And I hit something in the ground that was like a spirit, and it was unbelievable. It's like, this is, I'm in a 200-mile square. I'm surrounded by really, bourgeois communities. Johnson City, Tennessee, Bristol, Tennessee, Kingsport, Tennessee, Asheville, North Carolina, Boone, North Carolina. I'm about 120 miles to Asheville. I'm about 50 miles to Boone. About, I don't know, 70 miles to Bristol and Kingsport, and about almost 50 to Johnson City. I'm right in the middle, and I'm surrounded by all these sawtooth mountains. So the road going there is up and down and up and down and curving around and up and down and curving around. It's very beautiful, but it's not an easy road to drive. And I definitely don't go out at night. And I basically only go out in the early morning if it's sunny, and try to get back by 4 o'clock. So here it is 2:30, and it's already clouding up because this is a rainforest, right? So it's raining. Well, Jessica, come and visit. Get a hold of me at the dude awake 42 at Gmail. Right now, my phone is down, so I can't call. But you leave me your phone number on Gmail, and I'll give you a buzz. We can talk. The dude awake 42 at Gmail. Right. And hopefully they'll get the part and fix my phone by Tuesday, tomorrow. That's what they say. So I'm going to drive over there and see. Try. Take it on the road. There's a guy named Jimmy from Boston that in March and April, he was driving all over America, seeing what was going on. And it was really great. And I'd love to take some people, take a road trip, and have a little caravan and go into towns and use our smartphones and start up some more. I want to do a number of nonprofits. I want to start a thing called Humanities Artists Trust International, right? So, and I would love to have a traveling video art circus, right? Because it's obvious that something's going down, right? And we are being played. But there's so many different players. There's a great show called Dark Journalism. That guy has some pretty interesting information, and he's on the YouTube, Dark Journalism. Check him out. And Jimmy Dore is another. I mean, he does news better than any news, and he's a two-bit jackoff, bar comedian that lives in his mother's basement, and he's doing better news than CNN and NBC and Fox. So I see this as a great opportunity because I was born in 1950. And I remember the 50s, and it wasn't a fun time. It wasn't the time of Richie Cunningham and all, and the 60s and 70s weren't all in the family. And no, when I lived in New York City, 1970, New York City went bankrupt. I used to live in the park, and they had no money, so they let all of the grass grow high. And I had a tent in the middle. I mean, the grass was about 6 foot high. And I basically cleared a little circle and put a tent there and ran a wire to the street lamp and had a microwave oven and an air conditioner from my tent. And no one saw me unless you were up in a high-rise building looking down. You couldn't see me. And there was I picked, and this was down in the what is known as the Battery, the very southerly tip of
Can I take this?
Oh, you can take that. Yeah.
Can I take this one?
Uh, sure you can.
Thank you.
It's your raison d'etre, I understand. And so the battery, right? And so it's a nice little park, and it was where they had all the guns shooting at people coming up the Hudson back in, you know, the 1600s. Anyway, and they had nice little walk paths with park benches, and they had these circled little plots of green grass that would have a statue or two in it, and you couldn't get to it. And one of these little circles had no statue, and it had a little door so they could bring in the lawnmower. And because they went bankrupt, they didn't cut the grass. So it grew up about 6 feet high. And I picked the lock and put my own lock on it. And I would come and unlock the door, go in, and just walk, and my tent would be there. I spent the whole freaking summer. And my friend Willie had a rowboat a few blocks down on one of the first piers, around Water Street. And we had the rowboat underneath, and it was near Hudson. And we would get in our rowboat and row out to the middle of the Hudson late at night and just fall asleep. It was a big rowboat, too. And it was a great rowboat, too. I mean, it was like a rowboat that was like somebody's light boat off of a big boat. And we were, sitting by the water side one day, and we saw this boat go by. There's nobody on it. And it was like right there. So I got a 2x4. We kind of grabbed it and brought it in. It was kind of a fiberglass, and it was really good. And it had storage, like survived stuff. And it had life jackets and water, and it had booze and food. And it was quite nice. And these nice oars, and two guys could row. So we dragged that in. We hid it under the dock, and that was our rowboat. We'd go and go out in the middle of the Hudson and, drink and have a jolly good time. And we could actually go across the Hudson to where New Jersey was. And there were restaurants and nightclubs on the side, just kind of across, right near Hoboken. And we would row over there and go to the nightclubs of Hoboken and pick up New Jersey girls with, hey, you want to go to our yacht? And we'd take them down to our rowboat, and we'd row out in the middle of the Hudson and fool around and have a jolly old time. And those were the good old days of the 70s. And the 70s, because everyone was, bankrupt. I mean, way worse than right now. So and so that's what we have to do. We have to pick up the garland of opportunity. Instead of being so scared, we have to hit the road. We have to hit all these towns. We have to spunk them up. We have to go and put on a show for each of these folks, right? And give them the word of what's going on, because it's right in front of us. All we have to do is, like I said, Jimmy Dore, dark journalism, truly graceful. That girl does great YouTubes. And the kids who do Truth Stream Media. Those are really, really, really good. And they, Truly Graceful and Truth Stream Media, they do a great job. They pre-produce a show. They do all this research, and they, make, a documentary, right? And darkstream journalism, he really is he's been at it a long time, and he has great skill and great connects, and he brings on some pretty great guests, Catherine Austin Fitz, who tells it like it is about what's going on with the economy. We are bankrupt. We have every American citizen every year pays into the and I hate using the term dark state, or I hate using, any of those kind of pejoratives because they're so been taken away. Just like being a liberal or being, any of those things don't mean anything. When Rudy Giuliani said, there is no truth. Well, what's truth? Right? And he's right. There is no truth. Donald Trump lies so much he comes around and tells the truth. That or Biden, really, that guy? You want that guy to be your president? I mean, he is totally demented. Anyway, let's see. So this was something I wrote, um, and I'll read little chunks. I won't read the whole thing. I'll just kind of drop into it. And hey, welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Alba, me, your griot, just telling you stories, right? Here is a call to conscious intent, and that's what we have to have, conscious intent, right? The traveler was blinded by the illumination of Buddha as Buddha stood in quiet contemplation. The traveler asked Buddha, are you a god, man? And Buddha replied, no. The traveler then inquired, so what are you, man? And Buddha replied, I am awake. That's what we got to be, is awake. Not awoke, awake. Achieving a momentary coveted outcome by fixing the data to fit desired parameters does not manifest a positive completion of the enterprise. But if the sought after outcome is not failure, then the inevitability needs to use the lens of psychosocial cultural forensic anthropology to acquire a fortunate fate. So what is that? Psychosocial cultural forensic anthropology. To understand someone's psyche, you got to understand their social structure, where they come from. Understand that, and that's their orientation. To understand that, you have to understand the cultural base, where grandma came from, what holidays, what foods they eat, and you have to take it apart anthropologically. And what anthropology is supposed to be is a study of culture, society, history, without prejudice. You're supposed to take off your prejudicial glasses. And you're supposed to use forensics. Look at all the threads and take them apart and see where all those dots. So not anymore. Sorry, they don't do it. So we are stuck in a prejudice of people's opinions, By using psychosocial cultural forensic anthropology, CFA, and that's a discipline I have created because I've been in school so long that I got degrees in all those things, so I stuck them all together. And you pretty much can't understand one without the other. I have deconstructed the frayed edges of humanity, abbreviated history, to reveal a business plan behind the curtain of our meat puppet commercially hemigenic reality, where religion, king, country, sexual, and political orientation are not the enterprise. They are merely the smokescreen to the control of the enterprise. What's the enterprise? Well, the enterprise is, like Buddha said, to be awake, to see what's going on. Why are we here? Why are we in these avatars, these bags of water? So we can take it out for a ride, try things, make mistakes, not to get a job, not to get a career, not to have a trophy wife or husband, not to get a big car, a big house, or a lot of money, because they're all irrelevant. They don't mean anything. They're illusions. Cover page. Just look at our present political thing. Bernie Sanders, he should be president. He should have, Hillary Clinton never should have, the DNC took it away. We just said, hey, look what they're doing, right? Right now. Joe Biden can't even give an interview. Every time he goes on TV, it's like elder abuse, you know? So that poor guy can't even tell his name. I mean, every time he opens his mouth, he makes a gaffe. You know, if you don't vote for me, you're not a black person. What? You nuts? So, I mean, of course, Donald Trump's going to win if he runs against Joe Biden. Please. You know, if they really wanted to win, they'd put up Cassie Davert, but they don't because Democrat, Republic, both are two wings of the same corporate oligarchy, you know? And so there's the hidden hand, the high table, you know, they're not usual suspects. The usual suspects, the powers that shouldn't be, the sock puppets. It's the hierarchy, right? The pyramid. And the guys way at the top, you don't even see them. They're beyond the hidden hand. Hidden hand, you can kind of see. Now, things like the Illuminati or any of those kinds of things, they're just middle management. Like the CFR, Council for Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, Club of Rome, Bilderbergs. These are all managerial entities that run the show. Every politician is a member of one of these entities, and they're interlocking. I mean, all the different, there's 6 corporations, Westinghouse, CBS, General Electric, Disney, um, something or other, and Fox. And all the guys on the boards, they're on each other's boards, you know. Of course, look at Rachel Maddow, look at John Hannity. They're almost like mirrored images of each other. Anyway, so that's why we need to hit the road and bring the traveling video art circus to the community. All our relations out there, just like Jessica out there in Indiana wants me. And as we leave the town, we leave them with a thing called the Freely Inquiring Society. That is a society that is free, and it's inquiring, right? And we leave it there, right? Like, and we leave it in the university. Universities have sororities, fraternities, and societies. And once they're implanted into the DNA of that university, it stays there. Whereas, school clubs have to be reinvented every semester, but societies, no. We leave a society in one of those universities, it's there. And the corporate structure, guys, the first person on is always AI. And AI is reporting back to the high table. And I'm telling you guys, I sent Puddinhead of the CFR a copy of this back in 2014. What's his name? Richard, whatever his name was, right? And, if you really, really want to, no one's going to buy this pandemic. Yeah, you're killing lots of people, but you're not going to have grandma, It's like, it's just like the disclosure thing. One reason why, you know, they are kind of shy to have disclosures because they would have, there's a thing called X pretext. I think I got it wrong, but if you go to Deep Journalism and see his last Friday show, he has got all the dope on everything. And what X, those are the guys who are above the CIA. They're the people who would be known as MJ12 or the Trust, or there are a lot of names. And it's a hand of oligarchy that run the technology. Velcro, integrated circuit, fiber optics, all came out of the crash at Roswell. And it's like the alien agenda was left there. They wanted us to pick this technology up. It's like a test to see how smart we are. We could ferret out that stuff, then, then we are. And again, we're not even from here. You look at us compared to all the other aliens. We are the aliens, And, we were created by the Anunnaki to be slaves. They took a simian and twisted its DNA around and got us, Homo sapien sapien, right? And the other side of the hoax is so since the last ice age, about 16 million years ago, and this planet has been here 6 billion years. And look at the moon. The moon is, you know, it is way larger. Like you look at the moons of Mars, they look like Phobos and whatever the other thing is. They look like lumpy potatoes. They're like a rock. Not the moon. It's perfectly spherical. And it's like, you could take all of the United States and it would fit on half of one side. So the moon is about 4 United States big, a little bit bigger than that, but that'll give you an idea, right? And it's round, perfectly spherical, and it's pretty close. It should be drawn to our gravitational pull, but it's stuck right there, and it doesn't revolve. We see the same face all the time. We don't see the backside, right? And when we went there, those however many times we went there, we left over 200,000, 200 tons of garbage, like the LEMs and the rovers and all of the stuff. And we left over 2,500 pounds of poop on the moon. And what I think happened the next time we were there, a park ranger drove up to the astronauts. Hey, you can't, you guys are littering, and, get out of our way, get out, can't come back. But the Chinese are there. What are the Chinese doing? They're actually mining lithium 3 and 5, which you bring those suckers back and you put them in a reactor, and you could get a reactor the size of a refrigerator, and it would run New York City, right? And you wouldn't use uranium, you use thorium, right? So there'd be no radiation. The only reason we have radioactive reactors, uranium reactors, is because it's the cheapest way to make weapons grade fissile material. So, this is why they don't want us to know what's going on, because we would then go, wait a minute, you've done what? And they have spent over $1 billion trillion of your money every year. The average American works 40,000 hours just to give money to throw into a black hole, And so that's why the economy is a joke. It has, any economist with their salt will tell you that it's a joke, right? We are so off. And, China and us, every nation state, the people who run them are the hidden hand. So in China, in Russia, in France, in Germany, England, United States, Japan, Mexico, South America, all those countries, who's ever running them ain't no politician, right? And the politicians aren't even middle managers. They're low grade, cover page. To whoever is awake, the drift of history has carried the aesthetic human spirit to where its sovereignty has become subservient to the adoration of the evolution of the thing. Money and worldly material power above humanity's loving existence. Love, our birthright of nature, is the expression of the being, the aboriginal in the first person, to co-create of love's one illuminated love. That's what we're here to do, gang. This is a reality that permeated all that is, and I accept that I can't judge this to be good or bad. To do so, I would have to believe in good and bad, and I do not. Good and bad are irrelevant subjective terms. Defining an even bigger irrelevancy, belief. For within all things there is only the light, the dark, and chaos. The yin yang symbol is a very appropriate representation of this. Nature is a clever idea. Now, nature is a clearer idea of God than an anthropomorphized Big Daddy. Nature looks like balance, or nature looks to balance, rather than roller coaster ride of our animated fear house ride of history. Balance is not a conflict of good over evil. It doesn't taste right. Meaning good and evil don't taste right. It gives you a bad taste in the mouth, like metal. Within the balance of nature as God, the idea that this thing, orientation, as good or bad, and judged by subjective tastes makes no sense and is the biggest threat to love's illuminated experience. I mean, humanity, we've been here almost a million years, right? And you guys remember the 80s and the band Devo, do 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 do, crack that whip, lay your money down. And what they're talking about is what we're going through right now. The whip is being cracked. We're laying our money down, but we're not given any choices, right? And Devo used to wear flower pots on their head, big sunglasses, and hazmat suits, and Devo represented de-evolutionary, and that's what we're doing. We have been, our greatest time wasn't now. Just because we have, Bic lighters and smartphones doesn't make this the top of the human experience. Back in the days, of Lemuria and Atlantis, our whole solar system had people on it. Mars, Venus. That's why the horoscope has all those planets, because there were people on them, and the characteristics of those people represented that. Atlantis is the Aquarians. Anyway, just you and me, buddy. Worker done. So, we're the only freedom we have is the choice of what toilet paper we want, and that we can complain and no one listens, just like no one listens to this channel, right? Lay your money down. Love's illumination enterprise. Love's limited enterprise seems to have lost its way within the present corporate hegemony, where the focus is most intent on the cultural realm of money's power of control. That is the aesthetic dimension of the branding of control is considered the premium of importance. Where love is not free at this moment, do we really need another dark age? And that's where we're kind of being steered into. Lay your money down, crack that whip. Let's see. Will the enterprise survive the weight of another 900 years to illuminate the transformation of humanity? We're right on the edge of transforming. We just have to step up, be your better self. Stop trolling the bottom of the barrel of your emotional self. We need, see where's 900? From useless eaters to co-creators of love's universe, we need to use the experience of co-creation within the indigenous psychological feature of the individual, the first person, to co-create by a higher cultural attitude or outside force within the manifestation of love's experience. The relationship between the culture and the history was seen within Marx's dialectic as a physical transformation, essential to the political and economic control. The ambiguity was not the question of cause and effect. This issue was not critical to Marx. He argued, as did the capitalists, that economic constituted the essential substratum of history. And good old Henry Kissinger said, if you control the energy, the fuel, and oil, coal, you control that, nuclear power, if you control that, you control the economics of a culture. And that's why we have the petrodollar, right? But if you control the food, you control the people. And that's why they're plowing all of the spring harvest into the ground. Oh, there are no restaurants, all this food's meant to go. Well, around here, I went and talked to a bunch of people, and they went to the farmers who grow food for that. And instead of that, they sent it off to the food banks. So now at all the food banks, you get a gigantic big box of onions and sweet potatoes and broccoli, etc. And the people who are used to food stamps, where all they eat is macaroni and cheese, they go, what's this? Anyway, do. The ambiguity was not the question of cause and effect. The issue was critical to Marx. Life arranged as did the capital, he argued, as did the capitalists, that the economic constituted the essential substrata. Like I said, just the surface, the substrata, the surface. The deeper thing, your soul, is not covered by economics. The foundation of humanity's reason to live is love's illuminated enterprise, and that's to experience life with love's co-creation. Not the golden rule. Who has the gold rules? It only works for so long. Love's illuminated enterprise is more than the power of the meat puppet's golden god of the thing. For love's illuminated enterprise to manifest must include the body politic. That means more than we the people, for that was only the white guys who signed the piece of paper. It was a good bait and switch, but like all scams, our Constitution is time sensitive. And that's why they're trying to rebranding really, into a fascist, military, materialist dictatorship. You'll have your big screen, you'll have this, you'll have that, but the success of love's illuminated enterprise is not a matter of who owns what. For the foundation of love's illuminated enterprise is one of faith and not the control of belief in a specific ideology. Let me read that again. The foundation of love's illuminated enterprise is one of faith and not the control of belief in any specific ideology. And that's why I don't believe in anything. I don't believe you should believe whatever I say. Go check it out. Go Google it, Go look at these people I tell you should go watch, Dark Journalism, Jimmy Dore, Truly Gracefulness, and Truth TV. Now that is a hoot. The guy is like something straight out of a grade B science fiction movie, but he's got some pretty good information there. and also the um, um, the kids who run Truth Media, right? So faith is a deeper thing. Mystery of love's co-creation has been felt since our first cave painting. This need to share, and that's why when I was digging this hole, I unearthed something, some spirit, and it was like trying to get in me. I had to run out of the forest, out into the sun, put a chair, and just open my mouth and let as much UV and sun get on my skin, and then I hosed myself down and took some, you know, golden seal and echinacea and a few other herbs, and I kind of purged. And then that spirit came to me in a dream last night. I said, "Don't worry, don't. I was a little too harsh on you. What you need to do is go out in the sun and visualize that experience when you were digging the hole, and when I came up into you, and just step back and think of love's co-creation, and that's what I will bring to you." Because I kind of went at you with everything, and that was a bit too much. Boy, was it a bit too much. And it was with me, you know, until I left the deep green this morning. And I said, wild. I've been having wild dreams. Have you guys been having wild dreams? And back in the late '60s, early '70s, I was with a guy. His name was Lovejoy, Sam Lovejoy, and he pretty much invented, started, heralded, was the oh, who was the girl in France who wore the armor and led the rebellion? That was what he was on the environmental front, because in the late '60s, in Vermont, they were going to build the Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant, and the Vermont people said no, and the government said we don't care what you care about, we're going to do it. And so, by the rules of the NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, you got, before you do anything, you build a big tower, put all kind of sensors, see which way the wind goes, and you measure that for at least 6 months to get an idea if the plant blew up, which way the death cloud would go, right? And whether it rains here a lot or it's really dry or what it does, right? And he lived in the valley where this tower was, and it had a gigantic bright white strobe that every time it flashed, it lit up the whole friggin' valley. And I was visiting him one day because I was living in Boston. I had a airline stewardess girlfriend, and I was working at Worcester WAAF radio station, and I lived underneath my desk. Other than going to Boston, wasn't that, it was a ride. And with the bus, I went from Worcester to Boston, cost $1.50. It took a little less than an hour, and so. And I was 19 or 18, 19, somewhere in there. I graduated from high school, and I had already been doing that, hanging out with this stewardess and at this radio station, even when I was in high school, because it wasn't too far from where I was. Anyway, and I had another girlfriend in where UMass is in Massachusetts, and where that other college is, And I used to go visit her too. And that's where, and Vermont was just on the other side of the Connecticut River from there. And that's where I met Sam in the Putney Co-op in Vermont. And that's when I was, living with my sensei and learning Oriental medicine and philosophy. I was studying Buddha and Lao Tzu and monkey. Anyway, So I was sitting on the porch of Sam's the first night I went to visit him. Got stretch. And sitting on the porch, sun goes down, and this bright light becomes brighter and brighter until it's like a flashbulb right in the middle of this valley, and it lights the whole freaking. It's right, lights his whole place up. I slept on his couch in his living room. It was throwing shadows in the living room. He goes, I hate that thing, and he tells me what it is. He goes, I got to do something about it. And 6 months later, he went and got himself a bolt cutter, and he cut the couple of the cables suspending this big 300-foot tower, and it came smashing down, right? And it when he cut one of the wires, you hear the bang, like it made a sound all through the valley. And when that thing crashed to the ground, he cut a few of those things, bang, and it just started wobbling. He got out, he drove about a quarter mile away, and the thing came crashing down into a heap. And then he drove back to right by the edge of it. And in about 40 minutes, all these cops and the fire department showed up, and he had the bolt cutters in hand. He goes, I did it, arrest me. And that's why you do it. He goes, I want to go to court, and I want to, plead the case for getting rid of nuclear power in Vermont. And so they did. Arrested him. They didn't handcuff him or anything because they all knew him. And, they drove him to the police department. They, booked him. They took his picture. He gave his statement. He had a written thing about why he did it. And then he gave them a statement. And he went to court and he won because he used the Constitution and the state constitution that says that any citizen has the authority and the obligation to protect his fellow citizens by what some entity, corporation, or the state itself may do. So that's why he won, and that's why he and a few guys that I knew in Boston, as I was hanging out at Harvard Square, and so did he. He kind of started Earth Day in 1970, right? And the guy who took the credit was some college professor who, he organized the universities, but it was Sam's clipping the thing. And his court and that first he hadn't won his court case yet, so he was the main speaker. He got everyone behind it. It's like I'm the Forrest Gump of social consciousness. I just happened to be there when things like that happen. And I just say, no, you should go talk to so-and-so. And the rest is kismet. And see, the thing is, everyone can do that. And the more you do it, the more it goes. So, in 1972, I was in a dance company, Robert Wilson Dance Company. We're famous for. Could you get my waitress to get my check?
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyway. Some infected folks have showed up. And it's 3 o'clock and it's not raining. And so I'm going to skip back to the deep green. I'm about 30 miles. Had my nice little meal. I talked to you. And go read my stuff at xratted.blog.com. This paper is just one of hundreds, right? And I published this in 2014, right? And I was trying to get a number of people. I sent it to all the usual suspects. The head of the CFR, the Trial Commission. To like I said, all the things. People like Chomsky, blah 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 blah. They're all talking heads. That's why I like Jimmy Dore, because he's the one guy who's like, until they buy him out. Now, the corporation has tried to buy me out a few times, but I've always stayed in negotiation. And my negotiation is, guys, you need me more than I need you. Yeah, and I want you to pay me real well, but you have to let me do what I want to do because it'll be good for your own best interest to go this way rather than the fascists kill everybody way. You know? Again, you need to go. Whitley Strieber wrote some really great books. He wrote Communion. That was first. That was about his experience of being abducted. And then he wrote a bunch that were And then around 2006, he wrote a book called The Grave. Excellent book, because that's kind of what's going on. Then in 2012, what he thought was going to happen didn't quite happen. That's nothing nothing happens like on a stopwatch. Even though I'm giving you a countdown, today is 286 T minus, right? Because I bet you dollars to donuts, there's always a October surprise, right? And our October surprise is going to be alien invasion, right? Which will be no harder to do than 9/11. It'll be all whiz bang, Hollywood, holograms, and their cohorts, right? Like the tall Nordics, right? Who I've talked about. They are actually humanoids, and they're us. They back in the day, they're our cousins in another solar system. And back in the day when we had interferometry, ability to jump from point A to point B without having to go all that distance, Anyway, so that's what we're looking at, And so go read my stuff at XRATT, X-rated, XRATTED.blogspot.com. Go on the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Right? And I have a PayPal. It would be really great if you guys could throw just some loose change. That's, I'm hanging out on nothing. And I'm showing you that you can do it, the miraculous is always there to help you out. And watch more videos. I have more than, 1,200 of these videos. And they're all shamanic enterprises, right? They're all energetic, right? And, I'm being kept on the down low, which is okay because they're still there. Go get yourself a dartboard, get 3 numbers, and go to that show. Get a pair of dice. Oh, and that's the story. So anyway, that's as much as I'm going to say today. I want to get going. So, Jessica, it was a real pleasure, Oh. And so, do. Okay, gang. Love you all. Stay well. Thanks again for coming aboard, Jessica. I will come again, maybe next weekend, maybe before. But I have no real access. I have to go to a restaurant that has Wi-Fi. That'll let me sit at a table and do this. So, I'll talk to you soon. And this was another Just Stream of Consciousness. Hope you enjoyed it. Go look at my other shows. Go to... there you go. Let me give you right back. How much was that? $8? Yeah, here you go.
Thank you.
Anyway, so that's where we're at. I'm gonna sign off.